Yo! Video games.
What up, dudes, and welcome back to the YoVideogames podcast. I'm Matt.
And I'm Andrew.
And once again, thank you to all our generous patrons who kept us going for over 450 episodes.
Yeah, if you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogames podcast. Dude of the week is John CR. Thank you, John. I
Thank you, Wreck-It Ralph.
John. Oh, I'm gonna double check. It's not John C. Riley. I'm gonna double check.
I saw Dude of the Week earlier. I was like, John CR. I'm like, really?
Hell yeah, man.
The actor?
Great initials. Yeah, as always, I don't want to like dox anybody.
What if it is? What if it is?
I don't think it
could you imagine? That'd be so awesome. It'd be so awesome. But actually, it's awesome either way that he's listening and helping us out. And so he's better. He's actually better than John C. Riley because he actually listens to us.
Well, John, let's see your rendition of Mr. Cellophane, and we'll go from there. I just did that. I made a boomer ass reference to Chicago. So, what was it I said last episode? I said fresh but familiar. Now I'm making references to Chicago. Just fucking bury me already.
Man, it'd take me back to the days of riding my bike and perusing around Borders, the bookstore, listening to like free audio because they would put like a little like row of like 5 CDs on headsets and you could just listen to music, whole music albums.
And you would listen to the Chicago?
No, but I remember being there.
Come on. You never listened to Mr. Cellophane?
Probably a track or something in my boredom.
Chicago is a great musical if you like musicals. I don't typically like musicals. Like I don't like musical movies that often. But musical plays don't bother. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I have no good argument. It's just taste. But we went and saw Chicago randomly. They had like the Broadway cast, not the original Broadway cast, but like the current Broadway cast was going through and doing. So we went and saw it, and I had never seen it before. And my wife loves musicals. Her and her dad are like just like super into musicals. And so when she found out I had never seen Chicago, she got us like insane seats and we went and saw it. And then she was like, okay, you liked the musical. Now you have to watch the movie because John C. Riley is incredible as the like bumbling husband who's getting taken advantage of. And he has one song and it's very sad. And it's called Mr. Cellophane because he can look right through him, walk right by him. And he does kill it. It's actually like if you're ever like, oh, John C. Riley's so goofy. John C. Riley is also an incredibly accomplished dramatic actor. So, check him out.
Check it out. Was that a reference to Dr. Steve Brule there?
No, it was not.
Yes, it was.
It was not a reference to Brule's rules.
Brule's rules.
But you know what I will say, rules. I'm delightfully surprised with Indiana Jones. I was guarded. I wasn't sure how I was gonna like it, but Machine Games did it. I'm 3 or 4 hours in, so I can't give like a super strong judgment, but I will say Troy Baker disappearing into Harrison Ford. There's a few spots I've noticed so far that like he doesn't sound exactly like him, but there's also uncanny moments where he sounds exactly like Harrison Ford.
Yeah, he did an interview recently, and who knows to say, we're just taking his word for it. But like he said, when he got an email from the director or someone involved with the game, he actually forwarded 2 other people who he thought would do a better Harrison than him. But then they came back saying they wanted him, and he's like, all right, well, how about this? I'll send you a tape, and then if you like it from there, you go from there.
I'd kind of believe that. He's supposed to.
He's not like, he's definitely not someone who's like hard up for work or anything, so it's not like he was like, oh my God, I need this job. But it's always interesting because I've heard this from multiple voice actors where they've done stuff where they're like, someone will like come to them and be like, "Hey, I'm thinking of this role or that role," and someone will be like, "Oh, you should get this guy for that role." Like I know like John DiMaggio's done that, and other people have done that where they're like, "Oh, you should totally get this guy." If you're looking, if they get a if someone comes to them like, "Hey, I'm looking for who can do this," like
Well,
there's not this sort of, it just sounds so much less cutthroat, but I just can't imagine that being true all the time.
it's a super small community.
Hmm.
Um, like the best example of it is like the two leading men for games are Nolan North and Troy Baker.
Yeah,
They
although I
do
think that
everything.
dynamic shifted a little bit over the
A little
years.
bit, but like Laura Bailey, for instance, is still
Yeah.
in basically everything. You need a leading lady, Laura Bailey, done. Because she's reliable. A lot of people, I mean, she's very talented too, but um, a lot of people don't realize that for like acting of any sort, being reliable is 99% of it. Do you show up? Are you reliable? Can you do the thing? Like it doesn't necessarily even matter if you're the best at what you do. And granted, Bailey and Troy Baker and Nolan are all top of the line, but also they show up. Like one of my favorite stories that was told to me by a producer who I don't know exactly how true this is, but it was a very fun story. Channing Tatum's whole career is because he showed up on time every time, always had a good attitude, but he could always hit his mark over and over because he was a dancer. He could
Mm.
just hit his mark over and over and over exactly the same way every single time. He was always reliable. So it didn't matter to anybody that at the beginning of his career he couldn't act for shit. He's good looking, he hit his mark, he
Hu-
was always in a good mood, and he was reliable.
Humphrey Bogarting his way through.
Yeah, but then now, I mean, like, I don't think anyone would argue that he can't pull off like, he does comedy, at least, especially
Yeah.
extraordinarily well.
Do
But
you, do
he's
you
done
know?
he did that Thriller where he's like he pulls off that Thriller that he did for Zoe Kravitz, I think is it was her debut. I can't remember, but he plays like a billionaire.
Oh, I can see it.
Yeah, he plays like a billionaire that's like hunting women or something like that on his private island. Like, and he
Yeah.
pulls that off really well. Um, so it's like I'm not trying to be like, oh, he's got no talent. I'm saying at the beginning of his career when he was like just learning the game, he got everywhere because he showed up on time, had a smile on, and hit his fucking mark. That counts for something. Like, so yeah, I could see it's a small community, and Troy Baker recommends two other people who sound better, but also probably are really reliable.
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. But that's a weird thing, though. There is something weird about the whole thing where I guess from what he said in the interview, it sounded like, "Oh yeah, we wanted you to play like a young indie." And I'm like, because part of me's just spend the money, Microsoft. Just get Harrison. Why you were the only one of the only publishers on the planet who could afford it. But I guess the idea was like, well, we want it to be young, and he's old, so
And would he do it?
he probably wouldn't. But I'm sure with enough money, because like
No, that's
part
true.
of part of me is just kind of like, I can't believe he's doing Red Hulk. But then,
All
um,
the behind the scenes stuff is him just talking trash. So, you know, like,
I can't believe he's doing this. But he somehow they got him to do that. He was in Expendables 3. I think he probably might have shown up with enough money.
Anthony Mackie got into some trouble supposedly because him and Harrison Ford were ragging on the movie, and it was fine for Harrison Ford to be ragging on the movie, but it was not fine for for the new Captain America to be doing it.
Which is really weird because I know he actually got into something. Not I don't know, got into something, but like he was kind of annoyed with Shia LaBeouf um for his comments he made about Indy 4, and he was like, "Don't shit where you eat, kid."
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, to be fair, like one, it's a rumor, it's gossip, but two, like it was more like Harrison Ford was all like, "All right, let's shoot this piece of shit," and like walked off, and Anthony Mackie was just like echoed that sentiment, and later on,
yeah,
people were all like, "You don't get to echo that. you don't you don't get to say that," and he was like, "You're right." But again, it's gossip. It's like the Hollywood Reporter tweets it once 2
yeah,
years ago, and now everyone thinks Anthony Mackie's an asshole. Which, by the way, that's from what I've heard, not true. He's apparently a very nice man.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm gonna get to the game probably right after this recording, and I've been very trepidatious about it. Kenny really liked it, although I don't want to, not to harp on him in particular. He can think and feel however he wants. I don't like the idea where he's like, "This is my fourth favorite indie movie," because I kind of hate that mentality where
Mm.
it's like, this is my fourth. I'm like, okay, well then Fate of Atlantis, where does that rank? Which Young Indiana Jones Chronicles? It's like, I don't like the idea of like trying to. I mean, you could be. I would say, okay, this is your fourth favorite story or your ranking or whatever there, but I kind of hate when there's a part of me that's kind of like, I don't like when people try to rank movies and games like they're the same thing,
Together, yeah.
because they're
Well,
not the same thing. You would not pay $15, God, or God knows what else, how much it'll go to a theater to watch a cobbled together montage of cutscenes and some weird gameplay clips, of people walking around or being weird, or like character model standing and just talking directly at you,
this is
kind of
a
thing.
this broaches a like an interesting topic that I've talked. I don't know if maybe we talked about it before, just not on the podcast. There's an inherent bias to video games that happens purely because you play through the game, and so you put your own emotions
Right.
on it, and so like you become biased to the quality of the story standalone. Where like you'll judge a movie and a game on the same judge, like, oh, this is a way better story, but it's actually not fair to judge the story of a game the same way you judge a movie story, because
Yeah.
you invest emotionally in a game like you wouldn't even necessarily need cutscenes or acting in a game to invest emotionally in. Now, I'm not saying games are not that. I'm not saying games are inferior. I know
No, I they're
somebody
they're
out there
they're
is going to be like, "Oh, you
yeah,
just said
no, they're
games are
they're
inferior."
different mediums, and
Right? Yeah.
I don't think we should be saying a game is my X placement favorite film, and it's like, it's not a film, it's a game. Now, the only thing you should be comparing this to, I'm like, is this better than Fate of Atlantis? And then you have other ones like Emperor's Tomb and Infernal Machine, but like, let's just rank the games, and of course the always spectacular Lego Indiana Jones, but like,
Well,
but like,
I people might
rank
think you're
rank the
joking, but
game. No, I'm not. I'm not.
The Lego Indiana Jones and the Lego Star
I
Wars.
reviewed one of them. It's
Right.
very good.
Yeah, they're
It's
really good. Um, no, I agree with you because there's like a I understand why he's doing that, because he's elevating in his mind, he's elevating the game to the level of the movies.
right, which is a
So he's trying to speak
disservice.
fairly highly of it. But also you're saying that this movie is less good than Temple of Doom.
We're not in his mind. Um,
So is
well,
it
anyway,
bad? Is the game bad? Is that what you're saying to me?
well, I mean, and I've made no secret. I think all of the all five of the films, they're all enjoyable on some level.
Yeah,
They're
they're all fun.
clearly not all as good as each other. They're clearly not equal, but they're all.
Well,
The thing I can say is, like, because if we really wanted to get into like a film rant here, like, all five indie films on some level are enjoyable. They are. They're all on some level, most of the time, mostly well made. They're all well shot most of the time. They're all well acted most of the time. I'm not going
well,
to say,
what is a time where it's not well shot?
yeah, when it's just, some of the effect shots in Temple of Doom.
Yeah.
Like them standing on the cliff, like, coming out of the mines and the
Yeah.
water's bursting out. It looks awful.
Yeah, that's fair. I forgot about
Mola Ram's death looks kind of terrible. It's kind of oddly edited and cut together. Um,
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, I don't count Temple of Doom because it's the one indie movie that like I will watch any Indiana movie, like any of those movies when they come on. Like I'll probably watch them, except Temple of Doom. I won't really like. I'll watch some of it and then I'll walk away from it. I don't.
mm.
It's
I
not. It's
mean,
just not that good.
the thing is, it's my least favorite film, and I still think it's enjoyable to some level.
Well, there's fun. There's really fun moments, but also it's like I don't know. It's sort of like Stargate. There's 10 seasons of Stargate. And while not every like every episode at least is watchable,
Hmm.
you know.
I don't
Like,
know about the series. I've only seen the movie for Stargate, but no.
wow,
Here's the thing: here's the thing. I think every one of
it's
those.
not gonna up, but
I think every one of those 5 films, in some way, form, is enjoyable. I'm also one of those people who will sit there and tell you, no, the prequels are not good. Like, I don't care the fact that you were 5 when they came out. You were a kid when they came out. And they are not good movies. Period. There's sometimes good acting and sometimes some compelling stuff in 3, kind of, maybe a few bursts, a few bursts of light of like actors basically ignoring George. but,
well, okay, like
but
Hayden
like
Christensen and Ewan McGregor are both pretty good most of the time. I mean, there's some like hammy moments, but
I would say Ewan McGregor's only good at the end. I mean,
well, he's
y-
stilted in a lot of it because he's
yeah, I
not
mean,
talking anything.
you detach yourself from the memes, detach yourself from those memes, and it's like, is this acting good? No, it just stands out because it sounds so weird the way
Well,
they're delivering it.
because they're delivering it to a tennis ball on a green screen. It's one of the first movies or like trilogies that was filmed almost entirely on
Yeah,
a green
Ian
screen.
McDermott is the best actor in those movies, straight up. Um, and I know a lot of people will argue that the opera house scene is good acting, and it is. It is good acting. Ian McDermott is doing a good job. It's hammy, but it's good.
Well, yeah, he likes to he does that role specifically because it lets him ham it up.
Yeah, and it's good. It is a well acted scene. It's also a scene without really. There's still CG green screen in the whole scene, but it's like the only scene where it's like it's not focused on that.
Yeah,
It's actually finally focused strictly on dialogue and not exposition dialogue, just dialogue, just flavor text or like whatever, which you don't get enough of. Anyways, I don't think the prequels are good. I think there's like almost nothing redeeming about 1 and 2 at all. Period. I don't care how much you like Darth Maul. Like
Darth Maul's pretty sick. He was real cool looking.
you know what? Props to the character designer. You know, props to the art department and Ray Parker's athletic abilities, but he's not a character. In those, going by the movies, I don't care about the books. I don't care about your TV show. I don't care about your comics. Going by the films, he's a
Yeah,
guy.
no, I mean, I get it.
Nothing about he does stuff for someone. He has no character. He just sits there, does a presence, does some flips, dies. The
Yeah,
end.
he's a bad guy.
He's a
That's-
bad guy. His name is Darth Maul, for God's sake.
Yeah,
Um, but anyways, like I'm one of those people where it's like the prequels are legitimately bad movies. Um,
that feels
this
like a pretty safe thing to say, though.
it isn't, because so many people younger than us are like they swear by them, and like no. And the sequels are not good either. The sequels have a lot of heart and intent, but they are just like it's just watching an athlete shit their pants as they run down a track.
There's good moments, in each of the sequels has good moments, but they just didn't get. I don't know that they were too.
What a testament to writing and how much you need it. Like,
Fair. Um,
so to me it's just kind of like, well, Indy's got 5 films and they're all enjoyable on some level. 2 are really good. The rest are enjoyable.
I I want to. Do you think this game is going to? Well, you haven't played it yet, but do you think it's going to spawn a trilogy of games?
I don't know. This game took a while to come out, but hey, at least you've definitely got like Troy Baker's going to be around for a while, so
Yeah,
so it's not like you're running out the clock on because Harrison's like 81 or something like that. I don't know.
I don't think you're going to like this game. By the way,
The thing is, I heard it's actually very Butcher Bay, and I beat Butcher Bay, and Butcher Bay is good.
but
So
you hate stealth,
I do hate stuff.
and more importantly, you especially, if I recall correctly, don't like stealth in an open world environment.
Mostly just because it feels like you're not really being stealthy. You're mostly just dicking around with the AI.
Yeah,
You're not really being stealthy. You're basically just finding the parameters of the AI.
and I think you're going to find that a lot, at least so far from what I've played. I'm still in the Vatican because I'm trying to do all the side stuff, and maybe that's the mistake I'm making. Is like I'm doing all the side puzzles and mysteries and stuff like that, and
Mm,
like there is a lot of puzzles where you can like do there's little quick puzzles and then bigger
yeah.
puzzles and stuff like that. Um, but there's a lot of like sneak past the fascists into this guy's office, sneak past this guy to the jail. And if you start a big fight, they call all the fascists, and then you're fighting a whole crowd. Now, I didn't die. I didn't die, but I basically ended up with like 20 or 30 fascists in a hallway and just whipping them in the face and running away until I got jogging away until I got my stamina back, and then just
Oh,
continuously
Christ, there's a stamina bar in this game.
whipping dudes in the face. Oh yeah, yeah, for climbing, punching, whipping,
God,
all that
you're
shit.
you're not selling me on it.
Yeah, I actually sort of don't think you're gonna like it. I like it. It's good. Um, but I do have a feeling that it's going to be dominated by aspects you don't like.
I mean, I understand their thing where they're saying like, look, this is not going to be a run and gun because Indy doesn't actually shoot that many people in most of the movies.
I haven't used a revolver once.
So like we're going to try to use it sparingly. I'm like, that's fine, that's fair. But Indy's not also not. He's not a freaking ninja, okay? Like
He is
he,
now.
he occasionally, and usually, anytime he has to sneak, it usually goes tits up, anyways.
Yeah. Well, oh, and another thing about it that I like because it feels like they did it on purpose as a reference to the movie. Like he's not graceful. Like when he jumps to climb up, he does like the oof and his
Yeah,
hands scrabble and he pulls himself off. Or like when he goes to swing, uh, he doesn't look like agile and confident. He does like
yeah.
oh, and then like lands. And when he lands, he does that like oh, like
Which is an interesting thing because it's like I think that's the thing a lot of people like gave shit to like say episode 4 and or episode haha, movie 4 and 5 about where they didn't like how he was like bumbling and doddering. I'm like, did you watch the
yeah,
original movies? Like when he jumps over the pit because Alfred Molina like drops the whip, adios senor, and then he has to jump over the pit, and then he grabs the root and then, like he slips
yeah,
down. Then he like like he makes all those faces as he pulls himself back up. I'm like, he's never been graceful. So like when he tries to like whip onto the truck in Crystal Skull and then flies back into the windshield of the one behind her, and he's just like looks at, damn, I thought that was closer. Just
it's. I mean, uh, I think a lot of it is like people haven't watched those movies in a while, and they put them on a pedestal, and they don't remember exactly how the original like maybe the first yeah, I guess all first 3 were fun first. Like, they put fun ahead of badass moments. Like, Indy has badass moments in all 3 of the first
yeah,
films, but, like, it's fun first. He's still an academic. Like, he's still kind of a nerd
yeah.
in a lot of ways.
I mean, yeah, the line says it perfectly in Raiders, where he's like, "How are you gonna get on that?" I don't know, I'm making it up as I go along.
Yeah, that's what he does.
It's like, oh, so I wish there was a way to incorporate that into the gameplay. But I don't want it to be that's my fear is that like, oh, it's gonna railroad you into doing things stealthily and like
No, it's
re-checkpointing and redoing them stealthy because we really want you to be stealthy. I'm like, I don't want to be stealthy as Indy.
so there's definitely moments like that. At least I've had moments like that where I turned a corner that I thought I was sneaking, and then I turned and like was smack dab in someone's face. So like I reflexively hit the whip button, so I whipped him in the face and then punched him really hard so he couldn't call out for friends. And then like Indy says like a quip, um, you know, he has like various quips and stuff that sound very much,
Yeah,
you
and
know,
that's the thing with like Last Crusade. Like he tries to be stealthy on the ship,
yeah,
and then he just punches Vogel right in the face and throws him out the window in front of everybody.
yeah. Yeah, no, there's stuff like that. Again, I haven't gotten deep enough to know if it changes, but like it very much feels open world where you're exploring the Vatican right now and like
Mhm.
solving mysteries and stuff like that. If you follow just the main path, I'm not sure how much like you can be you don't have to be stealth. Like you can just go and swing it if you want, I think. But there are parts that like stealth is the only smart way to do it. You know what? The next part that I play in the game, I will do no stealth. I will just see if I can do it purely brawling. I'll do that for you.
Yeah,
I'll let
thank
you
you. Thank you.
know.
Let me know how it goes. But yeah, it's nice to see Microsoft kind of get like a little bit of a win at the end. Like we're finally starting to see the results of their many years of waiting for that their lineup to start taking off. Because like Redfall wasn't it, and there were so many other missteps along the way. Starfield was good, but it didn't blow up the way Skyrim did. It just did well, which is kind of to be expected when it's not on PlayStation.
Right.
Um, there was, I saw something of some people were I forget Jez Corden or whatever, one of the Xbox content creators was trying to make like a sort of argument case or sort of a drama case about how Phil and Matt Booty are like, Phil said there's no red lines, and then Matt Booty says we take it on a case by case basis. Why are they contradicting each other? I'm like, it's not a contradiction. They there's no red line for which games they bring over, and they take it on a case by case basis. They can both be true, right? Like this hardly seems like a sort of contradictory thing. Um, I would probably argue you should get used to the fact that probably every Xbox game is going to be multi-platform going forward. Eventually, uh,
Yeah, yeah, probably.
I will say someone made a really good point where their marketing campaign is where the real problem is. The whole this is an Xbox, and they're showing all these different devices. The problem is that you say this is an Xbox, but you actually don't have access to all your Xbox games. Like say this is a PlayStation 5. This is also an Xbox. However, it doesn't have Halo yet. It doesn't have, it's not going to get Fable immediately. So it's not really an Xbox. Like, where an Xbox is an Xbox. Same. So I'm like, yeah, they definitely should. And I agree with the sentiment that they should be clear upfront about what is and what isn't going to be available, now and in the future. I think that's only in their best interest. I do still kind of wish that they hadn't given up on being a competitor. I understand. I mean, we talked about it. We understand why they're doing it. It's because things just cost too much money. I'm more lamenting the fact that things got so out of hand from a cost, versus return on investment standpoint. I think that's really the more. I'm not lamenting. I shouldn't be lamenting the fact that Xbox is basically multi-platform at this point. We should all be lamenting that a game like Spider-Man 2, great as it is, should cost $300 million to make. We should all be upset about that fact.
Well, I do, and we've said it before. I do think that that's gonna change. I think that there's no path of sustainability for that to maintain. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, it really isn't, man. There just really isn't.
either
And
games are going to get much shorter. Big AAA games like that are going to get much shorter, or there's going to be way fewer of them.
yeah, and this sort of like the balance of power in the game industry is kind of in a weird place right now because they've all kind of woken up to the fact, especially after Concord, is that there's no such thing as a 10-year plan. Like Bungie's having a real hard time now too. So a lot of game companies, when they're like, "Oh, we want to have a 10-year plan for game, 10-year plan," they're realizing Fortnite didn't have a 10-year plan. Minecraft didn't have a 10-year plan. They're not 10-year plan games. They're forever games. They're not games that it's like, oh well, they were real. They were just planned well to last for 10 years. No, they weren't. They were lucky. And you can't ever plan a game to be supported for 10 years. The game will either just be really successful and you'll have an audience like that, or it won't.
Well,
And more importantly now, because you have so many games like Fortnite, Minecraft, Genshin, what have you, those audiences are invested, and GTA is a big one too. GTA 5, people are invested in GTA 5, and the thing is they're not yearning to replace it anytime soon. They're perfectly happy continuing down, hey, I'm just going to continue down the road I've been going down.
Pre 2010, maybe a little bit longer than that, games had a plan of like a year of support.
Yeah.
A year, and if it was
I think a
really
year's
popular, it would be
fine. What the
yeah,
hell,
no, yeah, no, it's well, every Call of Duty. I hate to use Call of Duty as an example here because it's chasing that forever game thing too, but
Kind of. They have yearly releases though.
right. Every Call of Duty though had like, okay, for like a year there might be DLC, there might be, but then they're gonna move on, and that worked. It's I think it still sort of works, but I'm trying to think of like other games. I think single player games are going to become dominant again. There was that like 10-year period where like
Mhm.
multiplayer games.
The thing is when a multiplayer game becomes successful, it makes so much money, and not immediately, but just sort of like over time, recurring revenue.
Right.
Multiplayer games have this like sort of recurring revenue, which becomes just like this big, like, dollar signs light up all cartoonishly in executives, eyeballs, and they're just like, you can't predict this. You can't sort of like force this to happen.
And this is purely speculation. I don't want anybody to think I have like a reason that added. This is purely my feeling. You're going to have companies that are going to try and have one of those. Like you're going to have a big company that's going to have one of those, but then they're going to focus on making small single player games in between that.
Hmm.
And so, like, Capcom might never do, or they might have their, Street Fighter that they try to keep going forever. But then everything else that they do is just that small mid
But they
budget.
also have interestingly, they have Monster Hunter.
Well, yeah,
But
they're
Monster Hunter
dedicated.
is but Monster Hunter is different though, because Monster Hunter does exactly what you said. We release the game as is. We have a bunch of free updates, and then there's like a year later, maybe more than a year now, but like, give 18 months, they have their big DLC expansion, right? And then that's it.
Right.
That's how every Monster Hunter has been. Here's the game, and then eventually they started adding in like free updates, for the months that followed, and then it was like one big expansion. Goodbye.
And the odd thing about that is it is sort of a forever game in that sense. That just instead of being free to play, you're just every year to 18 months, you're buying an expansion pack in a lot of ways or a
You
new
get one
edition.
expansion. You get one expansion pack, one big expansion for the game, and then it's done. And then like it's time to
Yeah, but the game's the same.
move on to the next one.
Every single game that comes out, it's the same game. Like there's updates, yes, and there's new idea, but like it's the same game. They're not doing
Right.
anything
Like,
completely
but I
new.
like but I like their attitude of just like, okay, here's the
No,
game.
it's
You're
smart.
buying the game, and you can play it single player too.
Right.
Like you can do everything in those games on your own. Like the game scales between 1, 2, and 4 players. So I like their method of doing it. I'm like, yes, this is sort of a multiplayer focused game. You buy it,
Right.
you enjoy it. You do not have to be online. I don't require you to be online. I don't require an email from you. I don't really require anything. I just need you to buy the game once. And then if you're really enjoying it, you can buy the expansion when that comes out to hunt more monsters and give you a couple new zones.
You don't have to have 4 accounts and you don't have to give us your soul and terms and agreements to
Yeah,
play
they
it.
even they even have like, save slots in the game, so
Yeah.
you're not like stuck to one account, like stuck to one character.
God,
So to me, it's like I wish more games were kind of like that, because the thing is that Monster Hunter World and now Monster Hunter Rise are their first and second best selling games of all time, and they're multiplayer, yes, but they're also multiplayer games that had one expansion each.
yeah, have a deadline. I'm I'm trying to think like I mean, Ubisoft is
Oh my
you
god, did you hear the rumors that are coming out of that? Like,
well, it depends on which rumors, yeah.
so there's the rumor is that, like, hey, they're trying to negotiate a sale to Tencent. Like, they're just gonna have Tencent buy Ubisoft. But Yves Guillemot is trying to argue and negotiate that he and the people and his friends and family, yes, both friends and family, should still have operational control of, of Ubisoft over the buyout. And it's kind of like,
He's trying to get a parachute while still keeping
And it's like, bro, you're the reason you're selling. Like,
Yeah, if Tencent bought Ubisoft.
because a lot of people are like, well, Tencent's not really buying that, and I'm like, well, why would they? They're buying the company because the company's doing bad. I'm not going to let the person run the company that's doing bad keep running the company after I buy them. Like, what?
Yeah, I had heard. I didn't hear that it was Tencent, but I had heard that they're trying to sell, um, which is apparently why they're closing. They're trying to streamline to then sell to. Um, that would make sense why it's Tencent, right? Because Tencent's a Chinese company.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they closed offices in places that wouldn't be necessarily attractive to a Chinese company, I guess.
Well, that also, and the fact that Ubisoft actually has, I think, the most, at least either the most employees or the most offices around the world. Like they have the most spread out of any game s- publisher on the planet. They have the most all over the map studios in the world.
Ubisoft's weird because aren't they like the French developer?
Yeah.
There's like no other big French development publisher.
Well, there there was Quantic Dream.
Yeah, well, David Cage, he did his best. Uh no, but I mean like there's they they spread worldwide purely because they were the only. I just don't understand. Ubisoft has some of the biggest hits. I guess it's been like what 10 years since they've had a truly huge hit.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know.
What's
Like
their last what's their last like holy shit hit?
I mean, critically, they had that Metroidvania, The Lost Crown, come out in January. I mean, they've
Right,
already
but that didn't like hit
they
hit.
didn't hit, and they ended up laying off a bunch of people anyways, even though it was a critical darling. Um, Rainbow Six Siege is their darling, is their golden
That's
child.
it. Yeah, that's like 10 years old.
But I mean, like it got more popular over time, like
No,
rather
it did.
than
And there was a 2-year period, no, like a year period where I played the hell out of that game.
yeah. As a
It's
golden
great.
child, like Assassin's Creed always did well for them. Far Cries were kind of off and on with sales.
Yeah, I guess they haven't had like a truly big win in 10 years.
I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say because they've had successes, but like it's like okay, Division One was sort of successful, but Division Two was not. Um,
Yeah, Division
same
2 was a flop.
same with Watch Dogs, where like one was kind of successful, two maybe a little bit, but the third one definitely not. And Assassin's Creed's been up and down.
Well, it just
So
makes you wonder like when I when I was a child, when I was young, Ubisoft had to be up there as one of my favorite developers. I mean,
there is a period where they were like
they were dominant.
yeah, they were really, and that was right around like Sands of Time, Beyond Good and Evil.
Beyond Good and Evil Sans. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's I know I guess that was like what 2003, 2004.
yeah. Yeah,
Mm,
2003,
that's a long time ago.
2005 was yeah, it was long.
Number 1, wow, that makes me feel old. But 2, like they've been limping for quite some time it seems like.
Yeah, because I mean, like Assassin's Creed was a big moneymaker for a while.
But it was like
Y-
their only one. You can't have just one big moneymaker unless you're Activision.
Yeah, and again, they had other things that were kind of doing it, but yeah, it's kind of been like limping. It's kind of like yeah, and then like once that started to kind of I don't know, they're
I want to take a minute to talk about the timeline we're on because we're talking about like where the centers of power in gaming are. At one point, Ubisoft was like one of the biggest names.
at one point they were third.
Yeah, and now you're kind of like look at where EA used to be. Ubisoft, EA,
It was
Konami.
yeah, it used to be EA Activision Ubi, and then it was Activision EA Ubi. And it was like that for a very long time, as far as like the biggest money makers.
Yeah, and
And
like now, think about. I'm just if we did a map of where the game industry was 5 years ago, No, let's say 10 years ago. 10
Yeah.
So when I say 10 years ago, I'm like, "Oh, it was 2010." The last 5 years didn't happen. It's 2015. So if you look at 2015, what the makeup of the game, like the hierarchy of the games industry versus
Nintendo
today.
was in the shitter.
Yeah,
Um,
Nintendo was having problems, and I would say today they are like their own column. They're their own, like,
yeah.
they are powerful again. They are culturally dominant within gaming, but they're in their own. They don't even real. I don't consider Nintendo to have any real competitors. They sort of just do their own thing.
The funny thing is I think they're about to have a bunch of competitors because Sony and Microsoft and others are now going into their hybrid area.
Well,
Like,
because Nintendo did that whole like we're going to swim off to our own part of the ocean, created their own column over the last 10 years, and now you know PlayStation and Xbox are both looking at it like, well, let's go over to that part of the ocean. Why? Because Nintendo has ideas, and the other two chase ideas.
yeah.
And this is probably why the industry is where it's at right now. But my point is like if you looked at the most powerful, I mean, if you went to E3 10 years ago and you can't go to E3 now, that says everything that you
Yeah.
really need about like the industry where it's at. But it makes me wonder, like, does it mean that we're on a verge? Like, is this 83 again? You know,
Um
are we about to have like a 3-year period of like everyone thinks the industry is truly and utterly screwed, and then somebody
there's this
gets it?
weird thing in the industry where a lot of people are kind of really hoping GTA 6 actually hits its release date next fall. Because and the weird thing is why they actually think it's going to be, a rising tide and it's going to raise all ships, which I think is stupid as hell. Personally.
Maybe.
The thing is because Nintendo's such a oddball
Hmm.
fish in this ocean, I think that the only reason we're not seeing another crash, another 1983 crash, the reason we're not seeing is because we have people like Nintendo and you have indies and you have just sort of like explosion games like that, like on the indie scene.
And the
Because the thing
industry
is,
has expanded to the point where there's
right?
no one.
Yeah, yeah. It's the but think if you will, if it was if say Nintendo absolutely just completely crumbled for whatever reason, and it was just Sony and Microsoft from 10 years ago, we'd actually be in a lot of trouble because the thing is that Sony and Microsoft still chase the same exact demographic. They're still going for the male 20 to 25-year-old, maybe 20 to 35 if you're lucky, but they're still chasing the same male 20 25ish
Well,
demographic.
Infinite Nikki
Yeah.
right now is like it is taking the internet by storm, and it's like Xbox Bros are in complete and utter confusion to the like going on any social media. You're just like you have you have people genuinely gushing about this game, which I do not understand. I am Xbox Bro, I guess, where I'm just like, I get it. I'm happy that they're
I think
gushing
it's
out. But
I don't know too much about it, but here's the thing. I'm actually very happy such a thing like it exists because the thing is I came from an education background where I worked in the education field for 14 years. And the thing is I always felt like it always felt shitty to me when you would see a lot of students, girls for Christmas, they'd get these Barbie horse riding games like, My Pits, My Sin, like there's Ubisoft's last big hits were like the Ubi babies or whatever. Just this absolute shovelware.
Der
No,
Uber
no,
babies.
yeah, the Uber babies. Just this absolute garbage material that they would just shove off on, for girls. Oh, it's the girl game. It crap. No graphics, no budget, no nothing, and it's kind of like
Right.
part of me was like, I just feel a little under. I mean, like, I just felt bad. I'm like, "Wow, they deserve a big budget game too. I'm not saying, I don't even know if this game's even necessarily big budget, but it's from an ex Nintendo employee, from the Zelda team, and he's just making his own big budget, hyper. I guess you could just say, I don't know, just feminine focused open giant game.
Yeah, it's open world, and you do fashion, and
Yeah. Good, good.
yeah,
Good,
the
good.
description
Those
of it
people,
is
those that audience, whether whatever wherever however your preference is, no matter where you fall, good. That audience deserves to have a big budget fancy game like that.
well,
Good,
but that's the thing is like judging by the social media, it's a much broader audience than anyone expected. Like
sure.
there's
Why
dudes
not?
in their
Like,
40s just like enjoying fashion game apparently. I don't The point is like this is a completely I don't think anybody would have called this game being a big hit.
yeah,
And here is just this game that like never in a million years would I have had that idea.
because people like, not you, but like the CEOs of the world or whatever, they can't see with eyes unclouded by greed. They couldn't imagine this being a thing, like a successful thing.
Right. And the thing, and I mean, even me in this one instance, like if you would have pitched this to me, I would have been like, wait, get out of here. Uh,
Yeah.
I would have been dead wrong. Apparently, this is just great fun. My my point that I'm getting is like, we have two major, once a company reaches a certain level, especially once they've reached where they think they dominate the field, they stop having new ideas because they don't want to risk their dominance, or I don't know what it is. You'd think when you dominate you'd take more risks
No,
because
but yeah,
you
right.
feel
But it's
like you
like
can't fail.
everyone's afraid of the gravy train, slipping off the rails.
Right. And Nintendo is guilty of this too, to an extent, but they seem like or I don't know how many years, but every certain number of years they have a come to Jesus moment where they're like, wait a second, and they go to a fresh direction.
Iwata talked about this too, but the thing is that what Iwata didn't, what's not mentioned in say the Iwata Ask interview or whatever, was talking to the guy where he was talking to the Animal Crossing devs, and there was a Wii version of Animal Crossing City Folk, and it didn't hit, and he was just like, you know, uh, the gist of the argument basically went like, I don't understand, I thought this. We had such success with Animal Crossing on DS and GameCube. Like, why didn't they come to the Wii? And I was like, if you really believe in your game, you got to stand by it. Like, you just didn't find the audience, but maybe you'll find them next time. And he did. So there wasn't
They
this
really
whole.
did.
See, the thing is like the difference of the Nintendo difference is like, at least during the Iwata's there, and I hope it stays this way. I have my doubts, but I hope it stays this way. Is say they really believe in a product, they come out, it's a derivative, and it's kind of whatever, it just doesn't take off as much. They don't give up on everything. They don't. Well, people don't like Animal Crossing anymore. People don't like Zelda anymore. Let's just throw
Right.
that franchise away. And it's like, no, just we didn't hit him. I
Nintendo
hate
doesn't
you.
blow $500 million.
I mean, like for everyone who knows me knows how I feel. Fuck Pikmin, but Miyamoto who stuck the course on that rotten ass franchise until he found success with the fourth game 20 years in.
Yeah, that's the benefit of keeping games at a reasonable cost.
Also true. Again, like they were certainly not breaking any banks making one Pikmin 1, 2, 3, or 4 even. Does seem to take forever to get 4. But either way, like I fuck Pikmin, but at the same time, it's like you need to be able to believe in your product to like keep it
Right.
going. It's like I have a good game. I know people would like this game. I just haven't found the audience yet. And that was absolutely true for Pikmin. And they finally made it a success with part 4. So, good on them for that, but
Well, I'm trying to
screw
think of
Pikmin.
any screw Pikmin. Microsoft won't take a risk on, like, okay, take Halo. Halo has been slowly dying, choking on its own vomit for I don't know, half a decade at least, probably longer. Um, you know, they could take that franchise and think of it in a whole new way, Step away from John 117, I don't know, make a space battle game in the Halo franchise. Do something with, something new and fresh with it. And yet they just keep making the same game in a lot of like you'd think somebody would step out of line, be like, here's a completely whack idea, like just insane. Why not? Why is nobody doing that in Microsoft? Why is nobody doing that in PlayStation? Now, granted, to be fair to PlayStation, PlayStation's found a niche that they're very successful at in that they make, I don't want to say sad dad. They do make that
They
sad
make the
dad,
gaming equivalent of Oscar bait films.
sort of, yeah. Yeah, like,
They're sort of gaming's Oscar bait
and
developed.
Microsoft has that in, say, like Hellblade, but Hellblade 2 didn't get really, like, it really didn't get a lot of attention. Like, it was a flash in the pan, but a part of that was, in my opinion, they didn't push Hellblade very much. Like, they talked about it once or twice.
I feel because the game, well, if you look at it, they actually talked about it a lot. But the thing is, that game took forever to come out.
Yeah, it did. It took a long
So
time.
it just kept showing up periodically every 2-3 years. There'd be a new trailer, and then it would
No,
disappear again for another two to three
that's
years.
fair.
So it came to this point where it's like, just release it.
But, like, do you think they're gonna have a thing where they, like, the swing that they took with God of War in 2018,
Yeah,
like, that swing that they took there, changing, I mean, the foundation of the game. Why isn't why isn't there more of that happening? Like, why aren't they taking franchises like
because they spend 200 to 300 million dollars
million
per
on,
game.
yeah,
That's the problem. That is the problem right there. Is that these games are costing 200 to 300 million dollars to make a piece.
and how much of that is marketing? That's before marketing costs, huh?
No, I think that's total.
That's with marketing costs.
Yeah, I believe that's total.
See, part of me is like, you know what? If you have a game like God of War, I don't think you have to market it.
Oh,
Not
you
the
don't.
not the
That's what I
way.
said. I said this on this podcast how many times about Spider-Man. When we came out, it was like over $300 million, that they spent on the game. And I'm like, you didn't need to
Ugh,
advertise nothing with that game. It's Spider-Man 2,
you're dr-
PS5.
you're driving and you hit Fairfax in LA, and you look over, and like one of the most expensive billboards in LA is expanded. So in order to leave the borders of a billboard, you have to pay a bunch of extra money. And it was the most expensive billboard in LA, was double size expanded to have Spider-Man popping off of the billboard. And it's just like, who are you advertising to, you know, in the heart of Los Angeles? Like, anybody that's going to buy this game has it on the, just release a YouTube video. There's a whole industry now to taking every trailer that you release and turning it into content.
Like literally, they just have two Spider-Man Venom. It says Spider-Man 2, October 3rd, whatever. Only on PlayStation 5. That's it.
Y-
That's it. All you need to do. Game, Spider-Man, release date, only on this system.
Right. It's like, if Sony released a YouTube video or a trailer on their YouTube video on their YouTube channel, what, it would take maybe a day for every single content creator on the internet to have a video breaking down like, I don't understand why you're paying millions of dollars to put it on TV. Like, I promise you, the 10-year-old you're trying to get to buy this game is gonna show their
Yeah.
they're on the internet more than they should be, frankly. Maybe we have to have a conversation about that. I don't know. But until we have that national conversation culturally, yeah, every 10-year-old's going to see that game.
Yeah.
And I, I, I do think you have this thing with marketing. I think it's changing now, but around 20, I don't know, 17, maybe a little earlier than that. No, it was earlier than that. You had this big push to, everybody changed themselves to, they were now social marketers or digital media marketers.
Mhm.
They specialized in internet marketing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And uh we smell our own. I was in that crowd. um One thing that I would notice is that, I'm going to be a dick and say, like, 80% of the people that I met in that space at that time were just people who, like, used social media, and so like made business cards and were like, I'm a or they read like a blog about digital media. Like they didn't have education in marketing necessarily. Um, they didn't have experience in market, like marketing as a like a industry. For one thing, marketing is an art form. A lot of marketing is an art form. A lot of marketing is esoteric and is based in psychology.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can't put a number on it necessarily. There's a reason why for decades marketing was dominated by people who sort of had figured out how to tap in, right?
Yeah, it's in the subliminal,
Right.
show a second of this, people go get a Coke, in a theater.
In digital marketing, it all became about stats, numbers, views. Did you just get more views and less views? Like number grow?
Right, and that's all, and it's the same thing in the game industry. Everything is they try to make a science out of an art.
Right. My point that I'm getting at here is like you have this shift in the industry where like they think that they have to track and get metrics for everything. Like they're literally beating it to death with a beaker.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how to the creativity of the industry right now is being dominated in a sense by the tech side of the industry.
Right, and the scary thing for them is that they actually don't need really much of any marketing at all. They could just focus just on games and just releasing games, and then the ones that are going to hit regardless.
Oh, the thing that I was building at with this is like a lot of marketing at the time that I was doing it was based around scaring the client into seeing how necessary the marketing was. And that's the whole point of the numbers.
Ah, yeah.
Is what I was get. My point is like digital marketing, like they say, like, oh, I'm a digital marketer, but really what they spend a lot, especially the really successful ones, would like they try to scare you into needing them. And so I bet you that not all of them. I want to be clear. There is genuinely a very smart people that work in marketing. They all just end up burnt out or fired.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
Well, that's the
Um,
thing too, man. If I'm a game publisher right now, I would actually not worry about marketing too much. I wouldn't even, it just. I know the Game Awards is going to be tomorrow or whatever, but like from what we understand, what's kind of come out in sort of reports and stuff is it's expensive, and I almost
m-
don't feel. I almost am like I don't even feel the need. Like here's the thing, you could you could just put your trailer up on YouTube during the Game Awards or right before and be like, "Hey, just tell everyone we're going to have our, your game company. You don't pay for a space. You're just like, I'm going to put up a new trailer. Check out, just make sure to
yeah,
come by
why
my
not?
channel."
That's what Nintendo's doing. The thing is like I was working a contract for AWS, and a creative director there was talking about this one time, um, and people were disagreeing with him. So it's not like it's settled idea, but he said something where he's like, every 10 years, the marketing industry is entirely shifted one direction or another, and so like
Hmm,
by the time you know what you're doing with marketing, there's a
it's not
whole
the
new generation of people telling you that that way is dead. And almost every in his experience, he was saying almost every single time they were wrong. That like this is not true. Uh
mm,
he's like the things that are still true about like good marketing is like, does it tell you what you're gonna get out of the thing? Like, does it sell you a lifestyle? Does it communicate clearly the advantage of owning this thing
yeah.
or of getting this thing? Does it communicate clearly what it will cost you? He's like, that's really what it comes down to. He's like, all everything
And
else,
I think that's true. It's just about how you get that message out. It's across
right? And
and where you get it across.
that's where being creative comes in, where it's like you see some really great advertisements that are really entertaining, and you're all like, but what are they selling? That's still a bad advertisement, even if it's entertaining. It's a
I mean,
bad
it's
advertisement,
it's it's most car commercials. Honestly,
right?
I mean, like speaking incidentally about myself, I've seen a lot of car commercials in my life. I've seen a lot of funny car commercials. I've never seen a car commercial sell me a car.
Yeah,
The only thing that's ever sold, like, okay, the two things in my life that sold me a car, this is going to be unique because it's me, was my father was a mechanic, and he basically just told me, he's just like, get a Toyota or a Honda, they're reliable. Okay, well, you have to fix cars all day, so you would know. you know
seems fair. Yeah.
one is expert advice from my dad was just like, just always get that, they're always reliable. And then the other thing was driving around, because I'm not a car person. Thing is,
Right.
I'm an anti-car. I am a car as a utility. I am as far away from a Jay Leno or a Kenny as you can be. I don't care about cars, like, as a hobby, as a sport, as, like, oh, it's like my, people. It's like the same people who like beach. What was that rapper's name? I die over these Reeboks. You don't even know it. Like Wiz Khalifa, not Wiz Khalifa. Who was it? I forgot. Anyways, I don't care about this stuff. It's utility. Gets me from point A to B. That's all I care about. It runs good for a while, and it gets me to where I need to go. I don't care about anything else. But what sells me on picking which car, beyond the whole, listen to the expert, is drive around. Oh, that car looks cool. I
Yeah.
like the way that car looks. You could try to do that in any commercial you want. It's not going to matter. Seeing a car
Well,
driving down the freeway is going to determine whether or not it looks good in natural lighting, or just in general. Like, oh, that's a good looking car. That is literally the only two things in my life that I've ever well, actually, not really dictated at all, because most of the cars I got were just, used, or, just what I could afford is what I could get at the time. But
so the directors of car commercials, there's like 5 of them. Cinematographers for car, if you can get into car commercial cinematography, you have a whole career. You're going to eat real well, because it's not easy. But once you get into it, the reason car commercials all look exactly the same is because there's only like 3 or 4 dudes doing it, and
Mhm.
they're all aged. They are all in their like 70s still doing it because it's like 200 grand a pop.
Dang.
You make a lot of money doing a car commercial.
I think it's never sold me a car though.
Well, if you look at older car commercials versus newer car commercials, they do a lot better job selling you on the lifestyle. The problem now is that, for the most part, cars aren't a luxury. Luxury car commercials versus economy car commercials. Look at the differences of how they shoot them. But
Hmm.
it's luxury car commercials sell you a lifestyle, whereas most of the like entry level cars, if they even advertise them at all, or like the mid range car, usually talk about like comfort because they're talking about commuting.
Yeah.
It's
I
very
remember one of the best was not a car commercial, it was a car oil, like for oil, whatever.
oh yeah.
And I remember the commercial. What most car commercials never show you? Real cars. And then it just proceeded to show you all these dirty, beat up, like old, like early '90s minivans and small trucks, and I'm like, oh, all the cars I actually see
Yeah.
in my life, just like, with this, Valvoline oil or whatever. I don't know if it was called. It was some oil company. I'm like, oh, I remember that. Yeah, car commercials do always fail to show you real cars. I just remember thinking that as a youngin', or a younger man, just being like, yeah, that's actually true. You don't usually see a real looking car in a car commercial.
Well, it's sort of the weird thing is like, how do you advertise a game system? Games. Like the design of a
Right,
system.
because like everyone remembers the weird crying baby for PS3, and didn't
Right.
help. Certainly didn't help PS3 at all. There was the PS2. Okay, we're boomers, so I unfortunately, for some of you listening, I imagine this is way before your time. The current commercial for the PlayStation 2 when it launched was a guy had an orb that said PS9, and he cracked this orb open and he inhaled all these like nano machines up into his brain. And so PS9 is apparently it's a drug bomb. It's just like a bath bomb of drugs that you
Oh yeah.
inhale into your system, and it connects your brain to the matrix, right? And then, PS9 teleport yours today, and then like the beginning PS2, and then it would like shift at the end to show you PS2 system doesn't, which greatest selling system of all time, which we could get into that, but like, um, it was a really, really weird commercial. And I don't think it was like probably the most unnecessary commercial, because Sony had been hyping that machine up for years. prior to it coming out, so everyone was aware of it. Everyone wanted one. I mean, it was and the DVD player, of course.
Yeah.
Um,
I I honestly
Nintendo, I remember they hired different companies during the GameCube era, which were all baffling and didn't help the system at all.
well, yeah, early 2000s advertising in general was wacky shit.
Yeah.
Like
But
like
to get to your point, people will remember when I bring this up what sold the Wii on the commercials. We would like to play. It was two little Japanese men in a little car driving around, and what did they do? They showed you. They went to a real family's home, and they showed you why you needed this, what it
right.
looked like, what is the advantage of this. It's like, hey, it's this thing. It's small. It's compact. It's cheap. It's exciting. It's engaging. Everyone in the family can play. Sold the whole concept.
Yeah. It's the I mean, right now, the easiest way to sell a console versus like a PC or anything like that is just all you have to do is show a screen of someone trying to start a new game they just installed on a PC. Oh, you got to sign up for this. You got to. Oh, it's not optimized
Oh
for
my
this. You got to
god.
do. Oh, yeah, you need
There
this
are
account,
so
and this
many
account's got to
people
be
in
linked
this
with this account.
industry. There are so many people in this industry. I would just love to punch in the dick once.
Like when we were talking about the PS5 Pro, it's probably lost in the commentary, but one of the things I said is like, at this point, why don't you buy a PC? And I was like, my argument is never going to be that, because console gaming is always going to be more convenient, more in a
Yeah.
way pure. Like I will always enjoy gaming on a console more than I enjoy gaming on a PC.
Yeah.
My argument for not getting a PS5 Pro is purely that it's not enough of a leap over a regular PS5, which has not been used to its potential yet. That was my only argument. Everything else, whatever other, like people being like, "Oh, just get a PC at that point." No, you're not going to get a $700 PC that's going to give you a PS5 Pro. It's just PS5 Pro is not necessarily worth the money now. If you
Yeah.
don't have anything, get a PS5 Pro. Hell yeah, party. But my point is like you could just argue for console gaming of just showing a person, but I mean you don't even need to put a disc, just pressing a single button and it going into a game versus a person having to click on it. Fuck all that. Like just play the game. And even then, it wouldn't be the console selling the console.
I
It'd
I
just be the
I,
game.
I downloaded for Muffin. I downloaded Marvel Rivals to play with him on like a co-sponsor stream or whatever,
How
or a
was it?
co-hosting stream. And I was shocked that I didn't have to go through a ton of crap. I think there was maybe one end user licensing I clicked.
Okay.
One terms of service. I think there was one. I didn't actually have to sign up for an account for like NetEase games or anything. I didn't have to do anything. It was like the most shockingly straightforward. I don't know if it was because it was on PS5, which is what I did, but yeah, there's been a number of games where, you know, just booting the game up is a problem
Anything
on
that's not on,
PC.
well, it,
On a PC specifically.
it used to be that if it was sold on Steam, at least it was going to run. Steam
No,
was going to run it kind of
nope.
like
My
now.
Silent Hill 2 doesn't actually run anymore. I actually tried to boot it and it actually just gives me an Unreal Engine crash report every single time I boot the game now. So I have
Hell
to
yeah.
go figure out. Well, I actually deleted it and reinstalled it. And I don't know, maybe it'll work. But I
Mm,
love, oh God, I love PC gaming so much. Yeah, bring it. I love having to troubleshoot the product I bought, on
yeah.
a system more than meets the requirements for it.
To wrap up our calm before the storm, since TGA is tomorrow after, so when this comes out, TGA will be happening that
Or
evening.
like in full swing.
Yeah. Um, like to wrap up this episode, which by the way, I have the beginnings of COVID, so if I sound like I have a brain fog or I'm dying, like I think I did pretty well here, considering that I feel like death. But um, if if it's a calm before the storm, it's because the power centers, like we were talking about, of gaming are shifting pretty dramatically. And you were saying like, oh, GTA 6, hopefully it'll raise all tides. I don't
That's what
think that's
everyone's
gonna happen.
hoping for, and I think that's stupid. And the other thing, this thing is, I said GTA 6 will not sell as much as 5, and people thought I'm crazy. I'm like, wait, we're you're full. It's going to blow past it right away. I'm like, it's going to sell over 200 million copies right away.
I mean, that'd be the biggest hit of all time.
You know
Um,
what? Like, no, it's not gonna happen, but, like, I'll give someone a sub somewhere.
but
They
if
can they can prove that they said that I was wrong.
the TGA is not going to have any super shocking announcements, is what I'm getting at.
Some people are claiming it is. I don't
You
know.
think
Like,
so? You know
I'm
what?
kind of like, okay,
I would
so
love to be wrong.
look,
That'd be sick as hell.
Schreier has said it, which I forget the first guy said it, Andy, I think, whatever his name is, which is like maybe, and then Schreier said it too. And I'm like, okay, let's see what they're talking about because I think it's one of it's one of two things. There's not
Schreier said that there's going to be like a shocking announcement.
two.
Two shocking
He said
announcements.
two, but they're going to be 26 or later games.
Hmm. See, I believe there's going to be announcements because there's always announcements, but
It's all
like,
announcements.
I don't
Sure.
think there's going to be like blow your mind, like save gaming announcements.
Yeah, well, Schreier backed up one report, but he said there will be two 26 or later titles that'll actually be very. And I'm like, okay, one of two things are going to happen. My first thought was probably not. Very dependent on your definition. So it's either going to be like either these will be big, but not for me big, but just these are big, like a GTA, or um, or there's just not. and
Hmm.
and everyone will just be scratching their head going what, which means which will lead to more questions of like what did they mean by that, which is maybe the sponsor pulled last minute. Things happen like that, things change like that all the time actually. People get cold feet on announcements
I would,
up to the minutes, up to the hour sometimes.
I would
So
love for us to be wrong and there to be some like world shattering announcements tomorrow. That'd be
i
so
don't
cool. I would
i
love
don't
that.
even I just don't know what would be world shattering for me at this point, like honestly, unless it's like bringing to me, world shattering would be like someone's bringing back an old IP that's been dead, but they're bringing it back with a lot of money.
Beyond good and evil again and for
Again,
real this
for
time.
ten for real. What do you, I'm sorry, like you know what I mean though, right? Like it would have to be like maybe not banjo, but banjo's not really that big. But like say, hey, here's a new Banjo Kazooie, and we're gonna put a ton of money into a big banjo revival. I would say Perfect Dark, but they're already doing that. It would be like of that caliber, right? Where it's like,
A new Castlevania.
yeah, like, but it's gonna have an insanely huge budget, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it would have to be like something, you know,
The new Naughty Dog game?
a lot of people were saying that, and I was like, why would they do that here? And people were like, well, they did show Last of Us before, and that's true, but I don't know that Sony cares anymore about the TGAs. I mean, I know the TGA, fillets Sony up and down. But part of me is like, yeah, this is like where they, God of War
Mm,
Ragnarok DLC Valhalla was announced, and Last of Us Last of Us PC port, like, or PC versions of Spider-Man. Like, it always seems like
it
it's a
could be the
port.
new Last of Us TV show teaser because that
Sure,
comes out in a month or
that's
something
not
like
going to
that.
blow anyone's mind, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, but that's the type of shit
Here's the
people
thing.
are like,
Here,
it's gonna blow
here's
your mind.
here's a mind blowing one. Here's my mind blowing one. Naughty Dog Jack and Daxter 4, huge budget, going back to a big, colorful game, big, colorful open world platformer. Naughty Dog, huge budget, Jack 4. I don't.
Under Druckmann though, I don't think Druckmann's gonna go that direction.
No, he's gonna make Last of Us, part 3. Like, I don't know.
I'm sure he's gonna make Last of Us Part 3, but I think he wants to make other stuff outside of Last of Us, but I don't think he's a Jack and Daxter game
No, he's
director.
not, which is why it would be shocking to me.
Yeah, that's
Like
fair.
if maybe like another division of Naughty Dog was doing a big giant budget Jack and Daxter 4. Like, oh, this is what we've been cooking,
I have a
in the
friend who
back.
did sound editing for me. He wouldn't tell me anything. I was like, "What are you working on right now?" He's like, "I'm not telling you." I'm like, "You son of a bitch." You tell me, damn it. I won't tell anybody, just me and a few thousand of my friends. Um,
Hey man, NDAs are scary, let me tell you.
they are scary. Um, but you know what? I'd break them for you, man.
That's
Not for
real
you,
sweet.
not for you
But
guys,
don't
but
but
for
don't
him.
yeah, that's real sweet of you, Andrew, but don't you dare do it on the podcast because
I'm kidding. I have never. You know what? I've never even slipped up on an NDA. I've had NDAs with some pretty serious people. I've never even accidentally messed up.
The really
To my
easy part
credit.
is just to put it out of your mind. Just don't even think about it.
Yeah, I came close one time when I was working on a thing for Star Wars battle drones.
But it's like Star Wars merchandise is like you breathe and another one gets announced. So
Right, and the only reason I accidentally came close is I was in casual conversation with Welzenbach,
mm.
and he loves Star Wars, and I almost was all like, "Oh, I'm working on," and then it was like, "No, I don't even have a job." I don't know what you're talking about. On that note, hopefully the TGA's blows my mind. I would love that. That would be
Yeah,
so sick.
I'd like it. I mean, if it's like, hey, Bioshock's back, I'm like, we knew this. That's my fear. Is that's probably probably the third thing actually is like, oh, this big reveal, I'm like, of a game they actually announced. Like
Yeah,
they showed the new Tomb Raider that's been announced, that's been known publicly.
I
I'm
mean, I
like
would still be
saying,
happy to see some BioShock, but yeah, that wouldn't blow my mind.
they'd be like,
That's not
oh,
game
cool,
industry shaking stuff.
yeah.
It's
It's
like being like, oh, Bungie's making the next Halo. That'd be sort of interesting. That'd be, I guess, but it's not gonna like, I don't know. On
Brutal Legends coming back, big remake, 4K Gatorman.
yes, I actually, you know what? If they announced Brutal Legends getting uh, like remaster or remake, hell yeah, I'd get amped about that. As as long as they kept all the jank. Like, you got to keep the jank. On
Oh,
that note, we've got patrons to thank. Keeping the jank. If you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogames podcast. Dude of the week was John C. Riley. I'm kidding, it's John CR, but thank you. You're our favorite John CR.
yeah.
Our
Screw that
producers,
other guy.
he's Mr. Cellophane. You just look right through him, walk right by him. Our producers for this episode are Dragon Wolf Makoto, Austenite, Zybernite, Tsunami, Kuroi35, Hyper Viper 89, LCL Mayhem, and Ziggy Z. Thank you, dudes. We'll catch you next time.
Later, dudes.